In a small fishing village by the great Zambezi River, a humble fisherman, Tano, lives with his beautiful and kind hearted daughter, Amara. Tano was a skilled fisherman, but his nets often came back lighter than expected. Yet his daughter's laughter and songs filled their humble heart with joy. Every morning, Amara accompanied her father to the riverbank. Her voice was her gift to the world, soft and soothing, yet carrying the weight of ancient tales. The villagers believed her songs kept the river alive, for they echoed through the valley and seemed to dance with the breeze. Little did they know that deep beneath the river's surface, Niami, the river spirit, listened. For centuries, Niami had guarded the river's bounty, watching over its creatures and the people who depended on its waters. But no mortal had ever touched his heart like Amara. Her song stirred something ancient and deep within him. One fateful season, the rains did not come. The river's waters receded, and the land cracked under the sun's relentless heat. The fishermen's nets came back empty, and the villagers grew desperate. They gathered by the riverbank, praying to Niami to save them. One elder spoke, "We must send an offering to the river spirit. Only he can restore the flow." Tano, driven by his love for his people, suggested they offer their finest treasures to the river. Gold, beads, and food were cast into the water, but the river remained still. That night, Tano dreamed of a majestic figure, shimmering like water in moonlight. "I am Niami," the spirit said. "Your offerings do not move me, but there is one who does, your daughter. If she becomes my bride, I will restore the river." Tano awoke in a cold sweat. The thought of losing Amara was unbearable, but the weight of his people's survival pressed on him. When Tano told Amara of Niami's demand, she was silent. She loved her father and her village, but the idea of leaving her world behind terrified her. Yet as she watched the children of the village cry from hunger, she made her decision. "I will go to Niami," she said, her voice steady. "If it means saving the village, I will give myself to the river." The next morning, dressed in a simple white cloth and adorned with flowers, Amara walked to the river. The villagers watched in solemn silence. She stepped into the water, singing her most beautiful song. As the last note faded, the river began to glow, and Amara disappeared beneath the surface. Amara awoke in a world of shimmering light and flowing currents. The underwater realm was breathtaking, a palace of coral and pearl, with schools of fish weaving through its halls. Niami stood before her, tall and radiant, his form both human and otherworldly. "Welcome, Amara," he said. "You are now my bride and the queen of this realm." Though his voice was kind, Amara could see the power he held. She bowed her head but made a silent vow. She would not lose herself in this world. Niami kept his promise. The river flowed again and the village prospered. But Amara soon discovered that not all was well in the underwater realm. Amara learned of Zunda, a rival spirit who ruled the dry lands and had cursed the river out of envy for Niami's power. Zunda's drought was not just a punishment for the villagers, it was a declaration of war. One night, Niami confided in Amara. "Zunda seeks to destroy all I hold dear, but with your voice, you can help me summon the ancient forces of the river and end his reign." Amara agreed, though fear gripped her heart. Niami and Amara prepared for the confrontation. Amara's songs grew stronger, imbued with the river's magic. When Zonda unleashed a storm of fire and ash, Amara stood at Niami's side, singing a melody that called forth tidal waves and rain. The battle raged for days, but Zonda was no match for the unity of Niami and Amara. In a final act of defiance, Zonda struck the underwater palace, causing it to tremble. Amara's voice soared, calming the waters and sealing Zunda's power forever. With Zunda defeated, the river thrived and the village celebrated its newfound prosperity. Amara, though now a queen, longed for her family. Seeing her sorrow, Naomi made a decision. You have given me strength and saved my realm. I will not keep you from your word. Go, Amara, but know that you will always carry a part of the river with you. Amara returned to her village, where her father wept with joy. She continued to sing by the river, her voice carrying the power of Naomi's love. And though she never saw the underwater palace again, she felt its presence in every ripple of the water. The river became a symbol of unity and resilience, and Amara's name was remembered for generations as a daughter who bridged two worlds. When Amara emerged from the river, the villagers gathered around her, their eyes wide with wonder. Her father Tano fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. You have returned to me, he whispered, his voice breaking. Amara embraced him tightly, but her gaze lingered on the river. She could feel Naomi's presence like a whisper in her heart. Though she was back in her village, part of her soul remained tied to the waters. The villagers celebrated her return with a grand feast. Amara sang for them, her voice more powerful and otherworldly than ever before. The river sparkled as though Naomi himself were listening. But as the days passed, Amara noticed subtle changes in herself. Her skin seemed to glow faintly in the moonlight, and she could hear the whispers of the river, even in her dreams. One night, as Amara stood by the riverbank, she heard Naomi's voice carried by the wind. You are still my queen, Amara, he said. Though you walk on land, the river will always flow through you. Use its power wisely. Amara soon discovered that she could summon rain during dry spells, calm the river's rage during storms, and even heal the sick with water from the river. The villagers revered her, calling her the river's daughter and seeking her help in times of trouble. However, her connection to the river was not without its burdens. Amara often felt the weight of the river's emotions, its joy, its anger, and its sorrow. She also felt an unrelenting pull to return to Naomi, who had given her so much yet demanded nothing in return. Years passed, and the village thrived under Amara's guidance, but peace was not eternal. A group of outsiders arrived, seeking to dam the river and exploit its resources. They dismissed the villagers' warnings about Naomi's wrath and began their work. The river grew restless, the waters turned murky, and the fish disappeared. Amara knew she had to act, but she was torn between protecting her people and maintaining balance with Naomi. She decided to journey to the river's heart, where she could speak to Naomi directly. As she stepped into the water, it parted for her, guiding her back to the underwater realm. Naomi welcomed Amara with open arms, but his joy quickly turned to anger when she told him of the outsiders' plans. They dare defile my waters, he thundered. I will drown their machines and flood their lands. Wait, Amara pleaded. They do not understand your power. Let me speak to them first. If they refuse to listen, then you may act. Naomi hesitated, his gaze softening as he looked at her. You have always been my voice of reason, Amara. I will trust you, but only for a time. Amara returned to the surface and confronted the outsiders. She told them of the river spirit's power and warned them of the destruction they would bring upon themselves if they continued. At first, they laughed, dismissing her as a superstitious villager. But when the river rose suddenly, flooding their equipment without harming a single person, they began to listen. Amara's words, combined with Naomi's display of power, convinced them to leave. The village celebrated once again, but Amara knew this victory was only temporary. The world was changing, and not everyone would respect the river's will. Amara grew older, but her bond with the river never faded. She taught her children and grandchildren to honor Naomi and protect the waters. She shared her story with the villagers, ensuring that the tale of the river, spirit, and the fisherman's daughter will be passed down through generations. Even in her final days, Amara would sit by the river, singing softly. On the night she passed, the river glowed with an otherworldly light, as though Naomi himself had come to carry her spirit home. The villagers awoke to find the river flowing stronger and clearer than ever before. They built a shrine in Amara's honor, calling her the eternal queen of the river. Centuries later, the story of Amara and Niami continues to be told. The river remains a lifeline for the village, its waters always flowing as though guided by an unseen hand. Travelers who visit the shrine say they can hear a woman's song carried by the breeze, a melody so beautiful it feels as though the river itself is singing. And deep beneath the waters, Niami waits, his love for the fisherman's daughter eternal and unchanging, knowing that her legacy lives on in every ripple of the river.